Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be covering an often unknown element or hidden secret to taking control of the wave and making significant improvements in our nose riding and cross stepping. It's got something to do with the inside rail, which is something I get questions about every week. But quite often people are told they need to use the inside rail and that's it, without exploring why and when we actually do this. And more importantly, how we do this. So today, we're going to uncover this for anyone who is finding they're stagnating with their progress in walking to the nose and nose riding, and also help those who are nose riding extend their nose rides and make some crucial corrections which consistently lead us to falling or coming unstuck on the nose. I did also just want to quickly say thank you so much for all the support on the last video where, if you didn't see it, I announced my qualification for this year's World Longboard Tour, which I'm really excited for. For everyone who did donate or grab some of the Glide Surf Collective apparel, I'm really grateful. There will still be the discount for the Glide Surf Collective apparel using the code TheGlideOnTour. And if you did want to support but you didn't want any of the apparel or anything like that, then there's also going to be the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. But I really do appreciate all the support for everyone watching, all the comments, it meant a lot. So let's get straight into the video. The inside rail is something we hear is important as longboarders, especially when we're considering our cross-stepping to the nose and nose riding. Even for our advanced nose riding skills, our inside rail is what takes us from some okay nose rides to some profoundly long tip time. But the question still remains, why do we use this and what utility does engaging the inside rail play in our cross-stepping and nose riding? When do we use this? Because when we do this is crucial, and we'll finish with how, going through the strategies I use and my real-time approach for getting this right. So stay tuned and let's get into it. When talking about the inside rail, I do firstly like to talk about it in terms that most of us will be pretty familiar with, this being the bottom turn. When executing a bottom turn, there will be a combination of weight onto the tail, which helps to create lift in the nose, disengaging our rail and hence creating a nice pivot point for our board to rotate around. But more importantly, in the context of today's video, we also use the inside rail. By placing our weight onto the inside rail in this way, we're able to drive more of the inside rail into the water, which creates a tilt or lean of the board to then drive the board up the face of the wave, from the bottom to the top. Now, like I mentioned before, we're often very familiar with this approach and use of the inside rail from the tail, but it's actually very similar no matter our position on the board. So let's go into specifically talking about how it can be useful for our cross-stepping and nose riding. For cross-stepping and nose riding, as we come towards the front of the board, especially if we've positioned ourselves correctly on the wave by coming into a nice steep and critical section where we're going to get all of our nose ride action taking place, the board will actually be driven on a downwards angle towards the bottom of the wave as the wave lifts and steepens from underneath us, which means that we have a one-way ticket to the flats, often leading to a nosedive, unless we do something about it, that is. This is where the inside rail comes in handy. By using the inside rail, we can actually correct our board's line or course. If we use the inside rail at the right time, we can adjust the board's line, stopping it from taking a negative trajectory towards the bottom of the wave, and instead allowing it to hold or hug the face of the wave. This will direct us and the board parallel with the wave face, which is our nose riding sweet spot. This is where we want to be, and this is where we want to stay, and it all comes into the use of the inside rail. So let's step through how we can actually implement this now. Alright, so we've stepped through when to do this, but I wanted to take you guys specifically how I go about this. So this is me thinking through the situations in real time and the strategies that I use. Hopefully this is helpful, and I'll try and do some comparisons or wave-to-wave comparisons as well. So let's get into that now. So essentially, think about our setup of the nose ride. What we're really doing is, for 95% of the time, we're coming from the tail into the middle of the board. So oftentimes the other things we can do is 2 steps to the nose, which is pretty tricky. Sometimes we can be coming from really critical underneath the curl as well, but that again isn't too common. I think for the most part, it's a setup where we're coming from the bottom, doing a light bottom turn to the top of the wave, because the top is where we want to make sure we are for our nose rides. And then we're doing 2 steps to the middle and then 2 steps to the nose. So the thing that I often see going wrong for people is when they hear they need to hold the inside rail when they're cross-stepping and nose riding, is they'll do this, they'll come over to the inside rail and they'll do all of this. But what's happening when they keep their weight on the rail for every step is, firstly, really off balancing. If you're going to try and do that, essentially you're going to be wobbling the board all over the place, and you're also going to be driving the board up the face of the wave probably much too quickly. So there is a much better way to go about this, and let's step through that now. So what we actually want to do is we're coming from our bottom turn and ascending the wave. Oftentimes as we're ascending the wave and we have that positive trajectory of the board on the wave face, we come into the middle of the board with our first 2 steps. Now, because we're only coming into the middle of the board, we're not placing a lot of weight onto the front of the board. And because the wave has that positive trajectory as well, so that being the tail lower than the nose, we actually don't need to step onto the inside rail. We're not at risk of coming down the wave face at this point. And so all of our cross steps can actually stay right in the middle. Where things become interesting and where we use the inside rail is actually for these next 2 steps. So say we notice at this point that we're looking for the nose ride and we've taken a second to consider our position. We might have used the step and reset, where we come forwards and then we widen that back foot stance so that we can reset and get our position. What we then want to do, again, if we have seen our when, so we actually can see that the wave is dropping out and it's likely that the board's going to be heading down towards the flats as we enter the nose, that's when our back foot, when we're nose riding, is actually going to come onto the inside rail, and this is going to harness a lot of the weight. We know that for any nose ride, we don't put, or any hang 5 I should say, we don't put a lot of weight on that front foot. It's all coming from the back foot. So all of our weight stays on the back foot. And so for that reason, it's really this back foot when we're nose riding, or the second last step, that has all of our weight onto the inside rail. And then we're just lightly touching that front foot exactly where it usually is. Now again, if we hold our back foot onto the inside rail for too long, what will happen is we're actually going to drive ourselves up the face of the wave. But what will happen in this instance is we could do the same thing as we do if we're doing a bottom turn for too long and turn off the top of the wave or turn off the back of the wave, which of course we don't want. So we always need to know when to dismount or when to come off this position. So again, if we go from the start here through to the middle, second last step comes to the inside rail and we try and hug ourselves. So we're turning away from the flats of the wave and we're getting ourselves so we're parallel to the face of the wave. What we can then do here, once we notice that we are parallel with the face of the wave and we're nicely locked in, is we can reset. Bring our back foot into the middle, and that's how we adjust there. And then if we did notice we hooked ourselves into the face of the wave, reset, and then we started to drop again, this is when we can use that inside rail again, and then we can reset. So anytime we notice that we are starting to drop lower, this is a good time to implement that weight onto the inside rail for the back foot. Now, you can probably imagine here, that's talking a little bit about how we're extending out our nose rides as well, which is really important. So again, what we said before, if we're taking people from just some okay nose rides to some really long nose rides, this is exactly how we do that. So you'll see a lot of the great surfers and longboarders, what they'll end up doing is they'll have this back foot adjusting, not only to the inside rail, but sometimes to that outside rail as well. And then this goes for our hang 10s also. So if I bring this back a bit, but as we're hanging 10, it's a similar sort of concept. The weight on the inside rail is where we're going to be leaning if we want to hook ourselves and drive ourselves into the face of the wave to make sure we're not dropping too low. And then as our position corrects, that's when we can correct ourselves and just come into a nice stance with all of our weight through the center. And with this sort of thing as well, in terms of figuring out whether you're coming into the right position at the right time, or maybe you're missing something on the wave, I think your video analysis can be a really good way to go about that. So if you have got someone to take some footage of yourself, it's going to be great to see whether you're preparing for the nose ride correctly and actually engaging that inside rail to stop yourself from dropping, or whether we're kind of mistiming anything or anything like that. So I definitely think that's a good idea. If you do have any footage and you wanted that analyzed, I am doing some video analysis for people, which has been going awesome so far, and have had a lot of fun doing that for everyone who's sent me through their footage so far. So there'll be a link down there if you did want to check any of that out. So we will leave it there for today. Again, if you did want to check out any of the links down below to help support me in getting to these events, there will still be the 10% discount code on the Glide Surf Collective apparel. That'll be the Glide on Tour for 10% off there. And if you did want to support me on my trips but not get any of that sort of stuff, there's also going to be the Buy Me a Coffee link down below as well. So we'll leave it there for today, but we'll catch you on the next one.